Welcome to the Scandinavian MIND podcast, our weekly show about how technology is changing the creative industries. Today on the program, exploring identity in virtual avatars. We are revisiting a live talk with Katarina Håkansson, a makeup artist and 3D animator. Katarina has a long experience in the traditional fashion industry, working in New York and Paris with some of the world's most renowned fashion photographers. A few years ago, she shifted gears and went back to school to learn 3D animation with tools such as MetaHuman Creator. Since then, she has explored how avatars will influence our identities and how beauty ideals will play a role in virtual worlds. A work that has garnered her a significant following on social media. This conversation was recorded at the first edition of Virtual Creatives Live, an event series we are doing in collaboration with Lynk Co. The first edition took place last week in Stockholm, and the next edition is on December 6th at the Lynk Co showroom in Stockholm. Follow our newsletter not to miss out on the invite to that event. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter. My name is, as always, Konrad Olsson, editor-in-chief and founder of Scandinavian Mind. And here now, my conversation with Katarina Håkansson. Enjoy.
Ska jag ställa mig här uppe?
Så här.
We're standing.
We're standing.
Okay.
Katarina, you are one of my I'm so fascinated with what you've done the past few years, and how I'm also fascinated because of where you come from. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a backstory here. I was introduced to Katarina by one of our collaborators, Ursula von Gander, a famous stylist here in Stockholm. Ursula told me, you have to speak to my friend Katarina, she's got something going on. And I looked you up and I saw that you've done all this work as a makeup artist in New York and in Paris, and you've worked with like all the big major fashion photographers in the world. But that's not what you wanted to talk to me about, or that Ursula said we should talk about.
No.
It was digital avatars. And I was like, what is this? An experienced makeup artist wanting to get into digital avatars. And we're going to get into this was about 2 years ago. And since then, you have been established as one of the most prominent, dare I say, influencers or personalities within this world of...
I don't know. Yeah.
So, can you begin with talking about why you got curious about this 3D world and these avatars, and what made you curious about it?
Well, simply I wanted to create a situation, a photo shoot situation, but not to work with real humans. It sounds a bit morbid when I say that, but I didn't want to have real humans. I started to work with life cast sculpting, but realized pretty quickly it wasn't very practical to work with that type of material. So I ended up in the 3D sort of world and realized, oh my God, this is where you can shape things virtually, basically. And that it went on from there, pretty much. Oh, thanks.
And what were some of the first steps you took? Because we did a story in our previous issue with digital avatars, and you wanted to bring your kind of sensibilities in beauty to the digital world.
Yeah. What is an avatar? A lot of people don't even know. It doesn't have to be a digital presentation of yourself, but it is a representation of yourself. That's like the definition of an avatar. So when I started working in these worlds, in these 3D worlds, and I started to explore the identities that people might want to be in the future. Where do we use an avatar? We use it obviously in spatial computing or metaverse or whatever you want to call it. But also we use it with our phones as well, and when we communicate in social media and so forth. So bots is an avatar shaped of some form. So I started getting very fascinated by the usage of avatars, and that is what I started to, my big interest, basically.
And this has become, or you kind of embarked on a new journey professionally. You started studying this. What were some of the steps you took to kind of scratch this itch of curiosity?
The skills are really found in the gaming industry, I've noticed, but the problem for me, not coming from the gaming industry, it took me a very long time to understand what should I specialize in, because it's such a broad field. There's so many specializations and skills within this broad area, and it's impossible to learn all of it yourself, so you just do a little part, so you need a team and things like that. But yeah, I'm fascinated trying to build avatars. Unreal Engine, which is a gaming engine, came out with a service, which is the MetaHuman creator, which made it possible even for me to create a 3D character. So, yeah. And
how, when we did that first story, which you can see online at our website, and I'm sure on your channels or feeds as well, we really wanted to explore makeup, and I was fascinated by how to take your kind of previous knowledge and expertise around makeup and taking that onto these digital avatars. Can you talk about that process of, you know, is this same kind of vision, or do you have to think completely differently?
You do have to think differently, because you're working with meshes and with textures and with layers and with all sorts of mathematical numbers. So it's not so organic as working with your hands and so forth. But it's with makeup you could do very realistic things. So, but obviously, if you're doing things in 3D, you want to push it so it's not so realistic, because you could do that, which you cannot do in real life. So you want to do unreal things, right? But people get very fascinated when it's realism and close to realism. When it's, because you want it to be that you can't see the difference, right?
So the special that I just described at the beginning here is called virtual creativity, and it's kind of exploring what creativity means in these worlds. Do you have any other kind of takeaways or learnings from working with this, either in the beginning or lately? Because I'm so fascinated by the work that you do, and I feel like it's really your sensibility that you are bringing to these worlds. It's not just like generating something digital.
What I don't actually, I don't exactly know what I'm going to bring into this. This is like a journey that changes so quickly. AI is coming and changing things rapidly, and I feel like it's basically taking things, going with the flow, I guess. But it's also to respect the skill, the technical skill of people that creates these tools, and how they think, I think is very important as well, to really acknowledge, so to say.
Was it talk about entering kind of this community, if you will, of 3D designers and people who are interested in this? I remember when I met you the first time, I think you just started out your Instagram. I looked the other day when we were prepping for this event, it's now up on 40,000 followers. So, you know, obviously you've made quite a significant mark on this community.
I've done a bunch of talk with especially makeup people and hair artists and groomers in the fashion industry, and try to empower them to not be afraid of using tools like AI tools, image, you know, text to image tools and that kind of thing. So I think it comes from that, maybe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But and also, what has the reactions been since you've gotten so much attention for your work?
Most people are first scared about losing a job or thinking that what am I going to do in the future, you can simulate all this artificially. So that is like the first question usually. And I would say that no, because you are the one that decides
Right.
what it that picks the image, so that is worth something too. So yeah.
I feel like I'm just curious to hear your take, because just during these past 2 years, I feel like you've kind of surfed two waves of hype cycle within this. When we started talking, there was a lot of talk about metaverse, and that will change everything. The past year it's been all about AI and how generative AI would change everything. You're kind of working in both fields. How do you see the landscape developing?
I see both developing heavily. I think AI, we just in the beginning of. We all know that. We hear it on the news and so forth. But I believe also that our perception of reality is changing. What is like, what do you want? Yeah, that is the most important part, I think. What is real and what is not real.
Say more about that. Curious. What's your own reflection on that?
It's going to be hard to tell in the future, that's for sure.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so. We need to have a disclaimer, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What are some of the tools you're excited about going in? I mean, I'm sure you've observed now Apple is doing their headset. Meta, Facebook.
I'm very excited about the AR glasses, things to become smaller. So that you can wear it and not have a helmet on your head. And that is very exciting. So I think the hardware for entering into, if you want to call it metaverse or spatial computing or whatever.
I feel like people don't want to talk about metaverse anymore. Like, that's
because Apple didn't, so maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. I think that as they become sort of more, not very many people use VR today. No. So it needs to be something that you can use except from using your phone, glasses or some other device that's easier.
Well, if we see the presentations came out of Apple when they launched their very expensive headset, but also the latest one from Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. I think, to me, these are the first two examples of where they've actually tried to create actual human avatars, human-like, to your own likeness.
Well, that's the goal, to have a digital twin, somebody that's exactly a copy of yourself,
right?
Basically. And that's where they're pushing it, to have this real, so that it feels like you're actually in front of the person that you're talking to.
But do you think that's the future, or do you think once people have their own avatar or digital version of themselves, do you think they will start playing around? Because essentially that could be a banana or a teddy bear or something. It doesn't have to be. Of
course, this is what fascinates me. It's like, what do you want to be? You can be anything you want. Are you going to be just me, or am I going to be taller and younger and more sexy, or am I going to be I don't know, am I going to have a superpower? Am I going to be able to fly or something? So, yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
I might be able to fly later.
Is that what you want? Maybe. Well, so what does the journey look like for you? Because, okay, so you had this extensive experience in the sort of traditional fashion industry, got this curiosity about the new digital worlds, started to bring your sensibilities to it. I know you've been studying this for quite some time. You're now also working at a gaming studio, or working with a gaming studio at least.
Yeah. Intern.
You're an intern?
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. What's that been like for you, having this vast experience coming into a completely new world? Do you feel like you're welcomed?
Yes, I do. I do feel very welcome, because I think that every walk of life is needed in this tech industry, really. I think every skill is needed. So, no, I don't feel, I just feel very excited about what technology can bring to beauty and to who we are, who we want to be in the future. I think it's very exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you want to work more in the gaming field, or do you want to bring some of this 3D stuff back into the traditional industry? Because we see when we cover the beauty industry, for instance, there is a lot of new tools coming out around AR and virtual try-ons for makeup and so forth.
Yeah.
So there is actually stuff happening. Where do you see yourself in the next few years? Where do you want to go?
I want to go towards the avatars, the full, when you can really bend your personality completely. You don't even have to be a digital twin. You can be a banana, or you can be whoever you want to be. That is what I think it's the peak of this.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I think you can bridge over to a lot of things like animal welfare. If you decide you're going to be animals, humanoid, pigs and cows and that kind of thing, maybe you be kinder to animals in real life. It bridges over that kind of stuff. I find.
So if you become an animal in the virtual world, you become more sensitive towards animal in the physical.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Well, obviously this will kind of really upend or at least challenge how we view identity in the future.
I'm sure.
Once our identity is starting to move into this digital world.
Yeah.
So I certainly see it myself with my daughter, who spends time in virtual various digital worlds like Roblox and so forth. It's not as sort of humanistic in its rendering,
No.
but it's definitely a place where she meets her friends and she has a part of her identity.
Yeah.
So how do you see identity change in the next few years?
This is what's interesting, how this is going to affect vice versa, people, what they want to be, and maybe commercial interest, what companies want to give people to choose from. So hopefully we don't really have that much to choose from, so we have to kind of make it ourselves. I don't know. Well, it's going to be interesting to see this whole market, so to speak.
We did a little bit of mashup of your recent work here, and that's spinning in the background. Can you tell me something about how your work has evolved and what you've been focusing on lately in your own work?
Yes. These are metahumans from the Unreal Engine, from their MetaHuman Creator Service. So you create and mold, you can sculpt your human easily, and then you can bring it back into another Unreal Engine and play with it and animate it. Yeah.
Anything else?
That's what I've done there.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at now, so to speak. That's what I'm kind of things I want to do now. Yeah.
Anything else you're particularly excited about in this space that's happening in this field right now that you want to share or lift?
Just the possibility of having a digital twin. It's just the thought of that to begin with. I think it's a big thought, with a lot of questions around it.
Huge concept.
Yes.
For all of us to think about.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
Katarina, I want to thank you for all the hard work you're putting into this. You're really inspiring the journey you've done, and thank you so much for collaborating with us on this and lending out your work. It's really stunning, and we look forward to following it in the years to come. So, Katarina Håkansson, everybody. You've been listening to the Scandinavian Mind podcast with me, Konrad Olsson. The next edition of Virtual Creatives Live takes place on December 6th at the Lynk Co showroom in Stockholm. Follow our newsletter not to miss out on the invite to that event. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter. Till next week, goodbye.